Welcome back to the show, everybody. Listen to these headlines here. We have the use of cryptocurrency on the rise. We'll tell you how much. A major German bank in crypto. Former Goldman Sachs executive talks about global market conditions. IMF director and SWIFT managing director spill the beans on crypto CBDCs. And how about that SDR basket? Yeah, shout out to Rodney. We're going to talk about the IMF adopting crypto to the SDR basket. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at Dig Perspectives at the top of the screen. And everything that we're talking about here today, it's $1.793 trillion market cap. Good afternoon. It is 4/25, April 25th, 2022, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, Bitcoin 38,800 plus, Ethereum now 2,800 plus. Number 7 spot is 66 cents right now. We're off by 11% plus on the 7-day for XRP. Let's take a look at the range of price very quickly. We have a lot to get into, and it's quite compelling, I don't mind telling you, even with the price at 68 cents. Right here, we're ranging between 66 cents on the bottom, 72 on the top. We will keep an eye on it. Danielle DiMartino Booth here, starting out yesterday by saying from Quill Intelligence, the Fed made a major mistake on inflation. It does appear the United States economy is slowing at the same time. We have raging inflation, and it clearly is asleep at the switch. Now, listen, I brought this up because there are economic factors outside of the digital asset space, not just the SEC case versus Ripple here. And I think we need to keep that in mind because we also realize there is an executive order from the current administration calling cryptocurrencies and digital assets and stablecoins a matter of national security. So while the economy is crumbling, we are well aware that digital assets will be a part of the new financial system. Here is an article from Glint. And ladies and gentlemen, I tell you, I don't mind telling you, I will be topping off my gold card very soon. I just did it, I think it was last week, but I'm going to be doing it again because I know that inflation itself is at a 40 or 42-year high right now. This article is pretty compelling. Now, I'm not going to read it to you, but it does say stagflation is on its way. And for those of you who are not aware, stagflation is when you have persistent high inflation, just like Danielle DiMartino Booth just told us, combined with high unemployment and stagnant demand in a country's economy. This does appear that where we are, and certainly we're headed to even a darker place of the same description. So to me, the only way to get out of this situation is to bring the velocity of money back to the formula of how we move money around the world, to reignite the economy. This is why I'm using Glint Pay to be able to diversify and buy gold on my debit card. It is really exciting, and it is physically allocated gold to you, and you can take physical delivery of it. Link underneath the video. The use of cryptocurrencies in the U.S. is forecasted to rise by 70% in 2022. Now, that's one hell of a number here. I have to tell you, when I see that, I see people flocking to what feels like more of a safe haven, understanding the inflation and possibly the stagflation that is about to find us. And it is no mistake that people start looking for different assets like cryptocurrencies and digital assets to be able to use for their purchases, transactions, and to hedge. Right here, major German bank applies for crypto custody license. Its Commerce Bank joins a list of 21 others pushing for a crypto custody license in Germany. Now, Germany, I know a lot of people in Germany are like, hey, we're not that far ahead, but you're a lot further ahead than you are in the United States. So good on them there. There's no doubt about it. Former Goldman Sachs executive, certainly somebody I have a lot of respect for, Raoul Pal, says that the changes in the global market conditions could set off the next bull run for Bitcoin. And I tell you, I think this is all speaking to what we just covered about the inflation and possible stagflation and how people are going to look for those areas of high ground that they can get into to either make money or hedge their loss from the traditional conventional markets. But let's take a look at this. There was just recently a global conference, a spring meeting with the IMF, for which it was European Central Bank former managing director of the IMF, Christine Lagarde, now the president of the ECB, Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, and Kristalina Georgieva, the current IMF director, and many others. But we're going to look through this thread, and I'm going to play you some videos here that really set the tone. The IMF director is going to give you what the current state is and just how bad it is. Tur de Meister here says, I followed the IMF for 15 years now, and this is the most impressed I've been by any of their live press events, and it was impressive. Some rare truths were shared on a panel in front of ECB's Christine Lagarde and Fed Chair Jerome Powell. The truth teller in question was Kristalina Georgieva, which you're about to hear in a second, the new managing director at the IMF. She grew up in and obtained her PhD in communist Bulgaria, did research at London School of Economics and MIT. She co-authored over 100 papers and previously was at the World Bank president and CEO. This is her right here in this first clip here. I want to play you that he has set up for us. And shout out to Tur de Meister here. It says, Ms. Georgieva shares some hard facts, which is quite rare in itself for a spokesman from the IMF institutions. She talks about the exploding government debt levels. Now, this speaks to what do you do in this situation when the paper fiat money of the world, certainly the global reserve currency, the U.S. dollar, has been so overprinted that there's a devaluing coming. And we're going to talk about that in the SDR basket in just a moment. But listen to her remarks here.
First one is the issue of debt. In 2020, debt levels have jumped for an understandable reason, to put a floor under the economy. Largest increase since the Second World War in 1 year.
Wow.
In 21, it was easy because interest rates were low, access to financing abundant. For some, it was cheaper to pay for more debt in 21 because of this drop in interest rates.
There you go. Now, here is a quick clip that I want to play for you also. She goes on to clarify that they were basically looking at sovereign bond defaults. Many governments are staring in the face of bankruptcy, and investors will have to accept a haircut on their government bond portfolios. This is what she means with restructured debt, and it's exactly what she means, and you need to hear this. Now, I have done video after video on this exact thing. A global reset, a debt jubilee, Nasara Jasara, where you have to figure out who's going to take the haircut as the bondholder on the debt in order to have what would be considered a great reset, or even further, a new Bretton Woods moment, for which she has called for as well. Take a quick listen.
We have to help countries restructure debt early.
There it is.
And if we don't, down the road this year, we may be in a very difficult place. You talked about the 50 basic points. Just imagine what it means for emerging economies if on top of it their currency depreciates, which is also possible, and capital starts seeking the comfort of coming here to the United States.
Now listen to what she just said. She talked about the debt restructuring, which is absolutely somebody taking a haircut on government bonds in their portfolio. Then she talked about the devaluing of currencies. And this is going to come into play in just a few more moments here, so I want to take you through it. Now, here in this particular clip, after talking with some exogenous shocks with some outside factors like the pandemic and the Ukraine war with Russia, and Georgieva points out how governments have failed to pay down debt when they could afford to. Take a quick listen.
The second issue, though, is that not all problems are exogenous. We still have plenty of problems that come because of poor judgment, bad governance, corruption. When Christine was the managing director here in 2018, early 2019, in these good days that we almost forgot existed, she would say, when the sun is shining, fix the roof. Mm-hmm. what we are now discovering is that many countries did not fix the roof when the sun is shining. Now it is pouring.
And there you have it right there. That is calling everybody to carpet right there. And here is where we're getting into this clip here where he says, before I show you this last and most important clip, I think it's relevant to know that Ms. Georgieva likely had family that lived in Bulgaria's hyperinflation in 1996. I suspect the experience informed her what she said on the panel. During the last moments of the show, Georgieva, the last speaker, spoke a truth rarely spoken in as an official live IMF setting. Namely, institutions are often short-sighted and the monetary stimulus programs have the unintended consequences of inflation. Listen very quickly here.
Think through what may happen that is not our objective. And then we wrestle with the impact of it. Take any decision that is a massive decision, like the decision that we need to spend to support the economy. And at that time, we did recognize that may lead to too much money in circulation, too few goods.
And that right there tells you a great way of how you could have hyperinflation lead to stagflation, right? And the devaluing of the global reserve currency, the US dollar.
But didn't really quite think through the consequence in a way that upfront would have informed better.
And I happen to disagree with that comment. I believe that there's no way that any one of those people at that level of that job and representation of where they are in their professional careers do not understand what printing $10 trillion would absolutely do as an adverse effect to the global economy and the global reserve currency, the US dollar. In fact, I have said many times, I think not only did they print the money through the pandemic and the liquidity crisis that existed before the pandemic happened, but I also clearly believe, that they were pricing in what they understand to be a revaluation of the US dollar, or devaluation, I should say, and even pricing in a bankruptcy globally. We will find out. But let's take a look at this. This is from Hall of Famer Michael here. The managing director argued if companies and consumers are to utilize central bank digital currencies for cross-border payments, the need to prevent fragmentation and ensure they are all connected becomes more and more important. The managing director from SWIFT has literally just defined what Ripple has been doing with making and building the market infrastructure for private ledger, which is built for central banks to use to launch their central bank digital currencies, with XRP being a medium of exchange, a bridge currency to connect all of them. That is the SWIFT managing director right there. And I'm not going to read this whole thing to you because I just summed it up basically. Now, they don't say Ripple or XRP, but they do recognize even further in this article how important it is to have the interoperability between all of these new central bank digital currencies, because that is a part of the new financial system. We are not going back the other way. I hope you don't get your needle stuck on a 68-cent XRP thinking that it's never going to happen. I'm not trying to sell you a used car, and everybody has to make their own decisions. This is not financial advice. But my digital perspectives are telling me that the largest players in the world, including SWIFT and the IMF and the World Bank, continue to move toward this new financial system, which will, I believe as well, will involve a bridge asset like XRP. This is a clip here that is so powerful, and it is Kristalina Georgieva from the same exact meeting again, talking about the world of money is going to do the right thing and is going to drive innovation that the private sector is so good at providing. Take a listen to this clip when she's talking about this.
Over 100 of our members are at some point of exploring central bank digital currency. At the head of the pack, the Bahamas, the first country to introduce the Bahama sand dollar, and followed by Nigeria and others. But at different stages, we find countries big and small. And what we recognize is that the world of money is going to do the right thing. And it is to drive innovation that private sector is so good at providing in technology, combined with the trust built by the participation of central banks, regulators, and standard settlers. And that is moving in a way that hopefully will bring to the economy this cheaper, faster service that digital money can provide without the overwhelming risks we have to be mindful of.
There you have it again. I believe on a macro level, she's describing companies like Ripple and the use of something like the virtual currency XRP. This is a reminder of an old throwback very quickly here, just a few seconds. I want to remind you that the IMF is going to be revaluing the SDR basket, the special drawing right basket, for which there are 5 major currencies of the world that sit in it. And obviously the most weighted currency in that basket to date is the global reserve currency, the US dollar. I'm going to play this clip very quickly to remind all of us just how close we may actually be to seeing a digital asset in that basket.
You want to take one? Go for it. The first one's for you. IMF. Do you see IMF holding crypto assets in the future? I did not put that up there.
Remember, I'm from the legal department. I'm supposed to be very conservative about these things. I don't want to go into great details about
Maybe
the
I
IMF.
should take what the IMF is going to do. I think we stunned Ross into silence with that one.
For that to happen, okay, under the current legal framework, some country would have to use a crypto asset as its currency.
Look at the look on his face. Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple back in 2018. Woo. And here is what we already know. El Salvador became the first country to accept Bitcoin as legal tender. The question there is would the SDR dare, or the IMF dare, bring something as volatile as Bitcoin into the SDR basket? My thoughts are no. Then there's the understanding of this. Ripple and the Republic of Palau turned to Ripple to explore the US dollar-backed stablecoin, an associated use case on the XRP ledger, which could provide a viable alternative to central bank digital currencies for countries like Palau. Now, let's take a look at this, because I played this not long ago too, and it's just about 40 seconds. Take a listen really quickly.
The paths are leading to some form of a digital currency. So do you think it's coincidence that we're now at the exact same moment seeing executive orders and mandates come out, and in it there is talk of a coming Federal Reserve digital dollar?
No, it's par for the course as far as I am concerned. I mean, how far along they are, I'm not certain. I have looked into this fairly deeply. There is some talk of going on the back of, let's say, an XRP or some other currency that's out there now that's functioning well and has been basically tested, and then putting a CBDC on top of that. That certainly could be achieved. And if it were, it could expedite how quickly this comes to the fore.
Now that is quite interesting to me, because when you hear that, you start to have to ask yourself, what does it mean to have a US dollar on the back of XRP, especially if XRP is 68 cents? Do you peg it at $100 so you could have 100 US digital dollars to one XRP? That could certainly be on the back of it, or some other denomination. What I find interesting here is that if they were to do this, if the federal government and the Federal Reserve collaboratively work together and chose to put a U.S. digital dollar on the back of XRP, as it is mentioned, would that in itself, by definition, make XRP legal tender? And if it did, would they be able to consider it as an adoption when they evaluate the SDR basket again that has been moved and delayed now till July 31st, 2022? The IMF normally reviews composition and valuation of the SDR basket every 5 years. If they were to bring in a digital asset, this would be the first time ever that a digital asset was adopted into the SDR basket. And you have to wonder if the new digital dollar ends up on the back of something like XRP, if that by default will bring it into the basket. And if it does, will the volatility of XRP be an issue just as much as Bitcoin is? Although it's not as volatile as Bitcoin, it still has a range of price. Then you have to ask yourself, knowing that the IMF director we've heard from, the SDR basket that's about to be reviewed for the IMF as well, and the World Bank, which is attached to the IMF, maybe this is why they call XRP and XLM stable coins for cross-border payment, because maybe it would suit them in a case like David Morgan just shared with us, that XRP and XLM become stable coins pegged at a certain denomination. And maybe that would serve the SDR basket and the financial system in a more reliable way than it currently does now, making it systemically important. That may happen through the executive order and the U.S. Treasury Department and FSOC and OFAC, because they are prudential regulators, not market regulators, and they can write their own regulations without Congress. Not too long ago, Elizabeth Warren even encouraged the undersecretary from the Treasury to write those regulations themselves. This is all speculation, but I tell you what, even with a 68-cent XRP, this is getting more interesting to me. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Check out all the links underneath the video, the products and services I use each and every day. I'll catch all of you on the next one.